Hey, what's up guys? This is Snackbox. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk to you about, in my opinion, the best epic champions for Hydra clan boss. Now, the key to Hydra clan boss is really to find champions that fulfill multiple roles in one champion, and that's really hard to find, especially when you're looking for an epic champion. But there are some exceptions, and I want to start with one of my favorite dwarf champions, and that's Geomancer. Geomancer, I've used him a lot in Hydra clan boss, really when Hydra Clan Boss first came out, and he's so good for progressing. With the recent Hydra changes, I don't think he's as good anymore, but he's still very, very solid as he has an AoE A1. He can steal buffs or just remove buffs if you needed, and of course his HP burn and weaken. And this is so strong against Hydra. If you pair him with the right champions, he can be really, really solid, a really solid damage source. And even though with the Serpent Shield, he might have lost a bit of value, but is still very good. You can basically build him in a reflex set or relentless, but I would probably prefer reflex set because you don't want to take too many extra turns, as the turn limit is way lower than it was before, and you don't want to waste any turns. And that's probably the way I would build him, with enough accuracy, maybe crit rate if you can. If not, it doesn't really matter. It's just a little bit of extra damage, but make sure he has enough accuracy and is fast enough, and that's all you basically need. Now the next champion is also one of the OGs for Hydra, and it's nobody else than Inquisitor Shamael. Now Inquisitor Shamael has been very, very strong in Hydra since the beginning, as he's a direct counter to the Head of Torment. And if you pair him with Geomancer, you can basically throw that HP burn everywhere on every head and have that damage multiplying. Of course, you need to put Geomancer in lead and have Shamael in the team, just constantly boosting his turn meter due to his passive. So every time an ally receives fear or true fear, he will fill the leader's turn meter by 15%. So your Geomancer will just take turn after turn, and if he's in a reflex set, he will just have that HP burn ready to go every time. Also, a little addition that you can do, because you really want one champion to do several things. You don't just want him to be that fear cleanser and turn meter booster. You can also build him in resistance and give him a blood shield accessory, so he always buffs himself, and he can act as a mischief tank, which is also a really nice way to utilize him, so that way he fills in two roles. Or you add crit rate to him and let him do some damage, because he can really do some decent damage, as well as he ignores defense on his A2, and overall a really solid champion. Now the next one I want to talk about is probably one of the oldest HP max HP damage champions in the game, and that's Royal Guard. You know, he just smacks with his A2 because the damage is based on enemy max HP, and he's still awesome to this day. He does a decent amount of damage. The only bad thing about Royal Guard is that his damage is based on attack, so he's kind of squishy. But if you can give him some survivability in the team. He will do some great work, some great damage with his A2. Also, you can add some accuracy to his build and let him play some decreased speeds and decrease the defense on his A1. So he's a debuffer and an enemy max HP damage champion. Really, really solid if you pair him in the right way, because he's really squishy and that's his main problem. But talking about squishy, the complete opposite is another enemy, another max HP damage champion, and that's Husk. Also a really an OG in the game, has been there for a couple years and he's still really good. He doesn't only do max HP damage, he can also provoke the head of decay, which comes in handy sometimes. Sometimes your provoker gets resisted or his skill is on cooldown and he can really come in clutch with this A1. Now, if you have an ally attacker or something in the team, he can also get Husk to provoke the head of decay. Other than that, he just does a decent amount of damage, and his damage is basically HP based on his A3, so you don't need to build him with attack or anything. You can literally just pump up his HP and defense, and he will survive and deal a decent amount of damage with his A2. You can also put him in a reflex set or relentless, really depends on what you can, it really depends on what you have. Same as Royal Guard, you can also put Royal Guard in reflex, or you put them in ignore defense sets. This is probably the best way to build max HP damage champs, but at a certain point the enemy max HP damage caps, so at one point it's not worth it anymore to get that ignore defense on them. So I personally prefer a reflex set, but they can definitely work in ignore defense sets as well. Next up, we have also a really, really solid support champion. Now this champion, Uugo, I still use her to this day. Talking about doing multiple things, she does an AoE attack on her A2, decreased defense and block buffs. Now she has a 50% chance of placing a block buffs. This books up to 75, and you add another 20% because there's always 4 heads, right? So you're at 95, and then you just add the extra 5% per masteries, and voila, she does decreased defense and block buffs on an AoE attack on a 3-turn cooldown. This is amazing. No other epic champion can do this, and it's not all. She also cleanses and heals and does a leech, has a chance of placing a leech on her A1, which also can come in pretty handy to heal your team, especially when you're using enemy max HP damage champions. And if everybody else dies, she can revive the whole team. This can come in really clutch. Sometimes it's pretty rare that it happens, but if it happens, it really makes a difference. Now the last champion I want to talk about kinda needs some support to function at the best, to get the best performance out of her, and that's Oboro, one of my favorite Shadowkin champions. What a nice design, really solid. I love the swords. Now, this champion really needs some setup to shine because her A1 basically turns into a AoE attack, which has a chance of placing decreased defense. But for that to happen, you need 4 or more debuffs on the target, and that's not really hard to do if you have the right champions. Now, if you would use Uugo, that would be already defense down and then block buffs. But ideally, you don't want another decreased defense champion in the same team. Her multipliers are really solid. She does really a good amount of damage. She can place Perfect Whale on herself, as well as increase crit rate and increase crit damage. And she can transfer all her debuffs to one target with her A2, and also steal all buffs from a target if she's under Perfect Whale or Whale. So she has a really nice synergy with the Whale buff. But the way I use her, and most people use her, is if you pair her with Lady Mikage, which is also a really solid Hydra champion. Everybody should get her at one point and use her in a Hydra team. So the way that works is if she uses her A1, she will attack the enemy with one random ally from the Shadowkin faction, and there's no better option as an epic than Oboro, and she will most of the time hit with an AoE, which also can place decreased defense, and this will deal a lot of damage. Now let me show you my teams that I was using. I used 3 of those epics that I just mentioned. So for example, this is my Nightmare team. I used Shamael just for cleansing and as a mischief tank, and I used Uugo for block buffs and decreased defense. Now as you can see, I had Uugo in a reflex set and speed. I haven't rebuilt her in a while, so I definitely need to check on her gear. Maybe I can improve her, make her faster or tankier. I also haven't touched Inquisitor's gear in a while. He's in a resistance set. As you can see, this is very old. Nobody uses this anymore. So I can definitely I can definitely improve his build as well. He's in regeneration because I don't have that much heal in this team. And I thought I'll just leave it like that for now. But I could get some damage on his build and let him do some work as well. So as you can see, 2 of my 6 champion in this Nightmare team are epics, and it worked pretty well. Now, of course, the other 4 champions are pretty solid champions overall, one of the best legendaries in the game, and but you can definitely swap those out. For example, Siphi can be just any reviver or turn meter booster. For example, Arbiter, she will not perform as well as Siphi, but still, if you go for the lower difficulties, you don't need the top champions, and then you use any damage dealers you have, Geomancer, Husk, Roga, whatever, and you need a provoker. That's basically the strategy of this team. You always want to make sure that you have all the debuffs ready to go: decrease defense, decrease attack, provoke, hex. Hex in this situation comes from Archer. Now in my other 2 teams, I don't really have hex. I would love to build my Nekmotar in a hex set, for example, but here you can see Oboro pretty much outshined Varl in this team, because she would just pair up with Lady Mikage on every A1, and this is pretty much how much damage she did. Now these teams, I just built them so they have a lot of room for improvement. Maybe I'll swap some champions around, but just to get an idea how to use those, I wanted to show you these stats. I have my Oboro in Merciless. You can use her in Lethal or Savage, works just fine. Get some accuracy on her because you want her to land at decreased defense. And I have my Lady Mikage in Relentless, but also in Pinpoint. Now you don't have to build her in Pinpoint, but Relentless works really well as she takes turns after turns after turns, and with every turn she takes, she does one more ally attack, and that boosts your damage a lot. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I will talk about my Hydra teams in a different video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. Maybe you have these epic champions ready to go, and you can take on some Hydra fights and improve your Hydra teams. Even though the Hydra clan boss is really hard now, especially for players that don't have all these OP champions. But honestly, as long as you get that one key chest, and that's basically all I gotta say. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a like and a comment in the section below, and see you in the next video. Peace.